What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday. Hopefully you guys are having a good start to your week. We're going to talk about Chauncey Billups in today's episode after picks against the spread. We got 8 games for picks. First chat poll is live. Only one player on that injury report is Isaiah Jackson. Timberwolves 1.5-point favorites. So you can vote in that as we queue things up here. Eric will be joining us in about 15 minutes. It'll be a short little episode, probably 30 minutes or so, that we'll be live for. And yeah, hopefully you're having a good start to your week. Hopefully you're enjoying the hotter weather here in the Portland area. Anyway, let's get things rolling. Let's look at the picks against the spread standings as we enter the day. Chat, congratulations. You've gained some ground. 7-3 day from chat, tied for the best record with Stephen Vaughn. And collectively, we did not keep our above 500 streak going. 6 games under 500 for us collectively. Chat has a 5.5 game lead on Eric, 6 game lead on Crushables, 8.5 on Javon. It was a bit of a rough day for double downs. Only 4 double down wins, 9 double down losses. That was not good. I think the only double down wins were the Blazers game, because the Blazers beat the Nuggets last Friday is when we picked this. We got 8 games entering the day. Let's jump into the first one. The chat poll is already live for it. We got the Indiana Pacers hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are 1.5-point road favorites. Only one injury for this game, as I said, is Isaiah Jackson out for the season. Anthony Edwards will play. We got 2 votes in chat. If you want to double down on this game, make sure to let us know ahead of time. Javon, can you put the picks in chat? I'd appreciate that. It would make it much easier on me. We got Timberwolves for Trevin and Connor. I don't like picking either of these teams right now, but I'm going to take the home team. That's the underdog. That's still a pretty good team. I'm going to take the Pacers. We got Pacers for Javon. To answer the question in the stream's title, hell no. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be a fun little conversation. We got Timberwolves for chat. 75% of the vote. And then, yeah, I guess I might have to read off picks here, which is a little brutal. We got Pacers for Crushables. We got, let's see if there's an easier way I can do this. All right. We got Pacers for Crushables. We got Wolves for 503. We got Wolves for Stephen Vaughn. We got Pacers for Jackson. Eric went Timberwolves. We had Arrow go Pacers. And we have Brendan going with the Timberwolves. And I don't see Zach. All right, that makes this a 7v5 in favor of the Timberwolves currently. If somebody wants to text or message Zach, I'd appreciate it. All right, game number 2, we got the Orlando Magic hosting the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are 4.5-point road favorites. Injuries for this game. Out for the Lakers, Maxi Kleber. Out for the Magic, Jalen Suggs, Mo Wagner, Cole Anthony. And then questionable is Trevelin Queen. There definitely would be an update there, but it's Trevelin Queen, so it doesn't really matter. Javon, that works for me. Thank you. All right, we got Lakers, we got Magic. Chat, there's your poll. The Lakers coming off their blowout loss to the Chicago Bulls, where they played absolutely no defense. I'll take the Lakers in this one. We got Lakers for Brendan Jackson. 503, Eric and Crushables. The Magic for Steven and Arrow. We got Lakers for Connor. Lakers for Javon. Lakers for Trevin. In chat, it's 50-50. Next vote breaks the tie. Next vote breaks the tie. All right. Next vote was for the Orlando Magic. So we got chat going with the Magic. Good old 9v3 in favor of the LA Lakers. Game number 3. We have the Washington Wizards hosting the Toronto Raptors. The Wizards are favorites. They're 1.5-point home favorites. Out for the Raptors, Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, Ulrich Chauncey, Chris Boucher, and RJ Barrett. Out for the Wizards, Sadiq Bey, Malcolm Brogdon, Bilal Coulibaly, and Corey Kispert. We got the poll in the chat. Give me the Raptors. We got Wizards for Arrow and Steven. We got Raptors for Trevin. Raptors try to tank really bad. Yeah, but they're playing the Wizards, and the Wizards are favorites, so I'll just take the Raptors in this one. Both these teams are hardcore tanking right now, but the Raptors do have Scotty Barnes, although he'll probably play like 10 minutes. We got Wizards for Connor. We got Raptors for Crush, Javon, Eric. As well as Jackson and Brendan. We got Wizards for Connor. I already said that. 503 went with the Raptors. And chat, it's 50-50. We need that tie broken. Vote in the live chat. Break the tie. It will be done with 5:10 p.m. tip-off times. All right, we got the Wizards for chat. If it ends 50-50, that means another vote came in, but it was Wizards first for chat. All right. Next game, we got the Brooklyn Nets hosting the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs, 3.5-point road favorites. Believe it or not, the Mavs are favorites. Injuries for this game. Out for the Mavs, Olivier Maxence, Prosper, Caleb Martin, Derek Lively, Kyrie Irving, Daniel Gafford, and Dante Exum. I don't see Anthony Davis's name on there. So either it was forgotten or he's returning. Out for the Nets, D'Angelo Russell, Cam Thomas, and DeAnthony Melton. AD is returning today for the Mavs. Yeah, the play-in dream is slowly dying for the Blazers. Chat, there's your poll. I'm going to go with the Mavs. We got Nets for Crushable, Steven Arrow, and Brendan. Which makes no sense because I see Brendan for Dallas as well. So, Javon, you're going to have to let me know which one it is. We got Nets for Eric. We got Mavs for Javon. We had 503. Go with Dallas. Brendan is Mavs. Alrighty. We got Connor going with the Mavs. We have Trevin we're waiting on. And Jackson went Mavs as well. Chat, it looks like, is going to end up going Dallas. A whopping 100% of the vote. And we got Nets for Trevin. Making this a 7v5 in favor of Dallas. All right, game number 6. No, game number 5. We got the New Orleans Pelicans hosting the Philadelphia 76ers. The Pelicans 3.5 point home favorites. All the spreads today are within 4.5 points, by the way, which is kind of cool. All right. Out for the 76ers, Lonnie Walker, Kelly Oubre, Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond, and Quentin Grimes. Out for the Pelicans, CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Brandon Boston, and Bruce Brown. And then questionable is Yves Missy. All right. Massive injury report. Disgusting game. Disgusting game. So who TF is playing? That's a good question. Justin Edwards? I'm going to take Justin Edwards. Masterclass coming. What's up, Umar? What's up, Eric Olson? What's up, Savvy? Hope you guys are having a good day. All right, we got Sixers for Jackson and 503. We got Pelicans for Connor. We got Pelicans for Aero Crushables, Brendan Steven. Javon's going to go Pels. Whoops, that is a Mavs logo. Let me change that real quick. There we go. Eric is going to go Pels. Trevin is going 76ers. In chat, we got another tie that needs to be broken in the chat poll. Next vote decides it for chat. Nice, JP. All right, we got Pelicans for chat. Making this a 8v4 in favor of the Pelicans. All right, game number 6. We got the Denver Nuggets hosting the Chicago Bulls. Denver is a 3.5 point home favorite. Out for the Bulls, Trey Jones, Ayo Dosunmu, and Lonzo Ball. Out for the Nuggets, Julian Strawther, De'Ron Holmes, and Nikola Jokic. And then questionable is Aaron Gordon. Javon going Bulls, Connor going Bulls. JP says Bulls easy. All right, we got Denver for Aero Crushables 503. Bulls for Jackson, Brendan, Steven. Bulls for Trevin. I'll go Nuggets. Then we need Eric's pick. Chat is going Nuggets, 60% of the vote. And Eric is going Nuggets. Also, Eric, if you want to text Zach for his picks. We got a good old 6v6 split vote. Game number 7, we got the Phoenix Suns hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. The Suns are 3.5-point home favorites. Injuries for this game: out for the Bucks, Jericho Sims, Bobby Portis, and Damian Lillard. Out for the Suns, Bradley Beal. Thank you, Trevin. Whoa. Out of nowhere spawns a Skype call from Mr. Eric Brandt.
Hello.
And also I have desktop audio because of the music, so you guys got to hear what I got to hear.
Yeah,
What's going on, man? No, it's all good. How's it going?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, except Zach didn't show up, but good.
No Zach?
No Zach. And I didn't feel like trying to chase him down in the middle of all this, so. Alrighty. I'm taking the Phoenix Suns. They're playing good basketball right now. Javon going with the Bucks. We got Suns for Connor. We got Suns for Arrow, Jackson, Crushables, Brandon, Steven. There we go. We got Zach in the chat saying Celts.
What?
All right. We got Suns for Trevin. 503 went with the Bucks. And Eric went with the
Suns.
All right. Chat going with the Milwaukee Bucks. Making this a... Oh no, we got Zach going with the Bucks as well. Making this a 9v4. All right, game number 8. The green team. Yeah, there you go. Game number 8, we got the Sacramento Kings hosting the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are 3.5-point road favorites. Injuries for this game: out for the Celtics, Xavier Tillman and Al Horford, and questionable is Jaylen Brown and Sam Hauser. For the Kings, they have 2 players questionable. They are Devin Carter and Malik Monk.
Sam Hauser got too many 3-point attempts. His shoulder sore or something.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Watching Sam Hauser yesterday just makes me want to take a second-round flyer on Kobe Bryant. You know? All right. We got Kings for Connor. Celtics for Javon. I'm just going to go Kings, I guess. We got Celtics for Trevin. Kings for Steven. Celtics for Arrow, Jackson, Crushables, 503. Zach going with the Celtics.
I'm going Celtics as well.
I'm going against the grain today. And Brendan is going with the Celtics as well. Chat is going Celtics to make this a 10v3 in favor of the Boston Celtics. All right. Time for double downs. Eric, I'll let you read them off to me while I decide mine.
I'm doubling down on the Pelicans.
You're doubling down on the Pelicans. I'm going to double down on the Dallas Mavericks.
I wanted to double down on the earlier game, but I didn't get it in time. So.
Yeah. Mavs for Connor with me.
Crushables is going Celtics.
Okay.
Nuggets for 503.
Okay.
Steven's going opposite him with the Bulls.
All right.
Jackson is Celtics.
All right, we got. Oh, wait, there it is. All right, we got Javon going with the Mavs with me and Connor.
Aeromancer is Nets.
Against us three. All right.
And Brendan is Bulls.
All right. Trevin is also Bulls. And Zach is doubling down on the Celtics. And then who was Chats? I believe they had a 100%. Yeah, Mavericks for Chat. So we've got 4 on the Mavs. Javon, Chat, Connor, and myself going against Aeromancer, who's by himself with the Nets. We got 3 with the Celtics. That's Zach, Jackson, Crushables. We got Eric by himself with the Pelicans. And we got 3 on the Bulls. Trevin, Steven, Brendan going against 503, who has the Nuggets by himself. That concludes picks against the spread. Thank you for participating. Let's get Eric up here. All right. Quick little conversation for today, Eric. Quick little conversation for today. All right. And I want Chat's input on this. But has Chauncey Billups earned another season as Blazer head coach? Has he made enough progress this year to where he should be brought back next year to see it through with this rebuild? That is the question. Also, do you think he's going to be brought back next year? Do you think the Blazers are going to move on? Those are your questions.
I see no. Yeah.
What do you think?
I would rather have a bucket of paint as a coach, says Blazer fan to me. Do I think he'll be back? Yes. Do I think he's earned it? I mean, he's obviously improved. I mean, or the team has improved slightly, but I don't know if he's necessarily improved enough to be brought back. And then you have this situation, which will be the same as this year, where he'll be a lame duck coach all next year unless you sign to an extension, which then we're talking about him being back for multiple years. So in my mind, I think you just move on from him this summer and you find a new coach that's going to maybe be with this group long term, hopefully. But unfortunately, I don't think that's how they'll play it out. You're muted.
Whoa. All right. Here's how I think this will play out. I think Chauncey's done enough this year to justify to the organization so that they can justify to themselves and to the fan base to bring him back. I think if there was no progress this year, the organization couldn't have gotten away with justifying bringing Chauncey Billups back, but now they can justify bringing him back and they can delay the decision on the long-term coach until next offseason. and they can just push that decision off. We know this organization likes to push decisions off, at least in regards to their potential trade candidates on their roster, right? And it's very Blazery to push off replacing Chauncey when you can sit here and say, look, he won 10 more games this season. Maybe more, assuming we win again this season. Ultimately, I think he'll be back as the Blazers head coach next year, but I don't think it will be on an extension. I think they'll just pick up his team option and then see what he does next year. Does he deserve it? He's had like 300 games here as head coach, and he has a really bad record. Now, they did go into rebuild mode. That didn't help him, but in terms of the stuff that you'd evaluate him on in a game-by-game basis, I don't think he's done enough to earn his job next year. Now, he's a player's coach, relationship-driven coach. He's, you could say, maybe done an okay job developing players this year. But at some point, you got to get a coach in here who's good at X's and O's to make things easier for these younger players, and I don't think Chauncey really does that. I think that's part of the development of young players that could be lacking in terms of they don't have much of an offensive system. They're stagnant offensively, and then defensively it's zone or drop scheme the majority of the time, and they don't really mix things up as much as maybe they could with some of their defensive pieces on that side of the floor. And ultimately, for some of these young guys, for a guy like Shaedon Sharpe, it might benefit him to get some easier looks going downhill, off of cuts, off of action, compared to having to do pretty much all of it in isolation, all of it on the dribble, all of it on the pick and roll. I think ultimately for me, that's the main reason why Chauncey doesn't deserve to be back is offensive and defensive schemes. I also think situational coaching, when this team is ready to try and win games, is that next year? I don't know. And I mean win games in terms of be above 500. I think some of the situational stuff with Chauncey is an issue in terms of trying to actually legitimately win games. But if the team isn't ready to try and take that next step next year, then I could easily see them just delaying that decision another year, bringing back Chauncey, and just seeing what next year looks like. And then if they don't improve, they can fire him. And if they improve even more, maybe they feel comfortable with Chauncey being that coach going forward. Maybe they feel like he's grown enough. But I just don't think Chauncey has shown enough in specific areas that you would want out of an NBA head coach. I think you can bring in assistants to help with, player relations and locker room stuff and this and that. I think ultimately that's the best role for Chauncey Billups going forward in an organization. I think if the Blazers do let him go, that would end up being his role on his next organization. And that's pretty much it. I don't really think there's anything else to add there. I think you've seen some good things out of this team this year, but also you brought in Deni Avdija, and we see the difference with this team. Without him, it looks exactly the same as last year, and with him, it looks different. And we've talked about how Deni Avdija completely changes the makeup and identity of this team and actually pushes this team in the right direction in terms of establishing an identity on both sides of the floor. I have not been encouraged by the way they've played without him in terms of that identity. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that Chauncey Billups is a main driver in them establishing that identity, because I think Deni Avdija is the number one reason the Blazers have any identity on either side of the floor, and that's why when he's out, the team looks awful and looks like they did last year.
I have a question for you. Do you believe Joe Cronin when he says he doesn't interfere or tell Chauncey anything in terms of who to play or rotations or overall thing? He just lets him coach. Do you believe that, or do you think that that's just like what he has to say?
I believe it. I mean, the decisions made during the game, the decisions made in terms of lineups and stuff, feel like Chauncey decisions. They don't
Yeah.
feel like Cronin-led decisions.
No.
So, yeah,
So
I believe him.
here's ultimately why. See, now you're caught in this situation where Chauncey did just a good enough job to justify bringing him back, but he's still probably not. You don't feel good about him being the coach
Yeah.
long term. So when you have a situation where you are saying before the season starts, this is a rebuilding team. We're not afraid to take a step back to take two steps forward in the future. We want to build this thing slow and the right way and all this stuff. And then you have a coach that is trying to prove himself for his next job, basically, and he's trying to win, and you have these veterans still on your roster, so of course he's going to play them. You get stuck in this situation where you let him do that. So to me, the mistake was bringing him back if you weren't going to keep him long term, because like this could have all been avoided with a new coach who was told from the beginning this is a rebuilding year and we're not going to play the veterans like Jeremy Grant 38 minutes or whatever throughout the season. So to me, the mistake was bringing him back this season because you put yourself in this exact scenario where he's trying to win games. We're just good enough to not bottom out and maybe get a game-changing player that would completely alter the state of this franchise. And we're not good enough, though, to like be really happy about it and be like, oh, wow, we're a playoff team or anything like that. So we're kind of bringing him back, to me, kind of put us in that position. And then if you weren't going to tell him that it's okay to lose games or whatever, then that kind of messed everything up. So now they're stuck in a position where I mean, Chauncey's going to look at it like, I mean, why should I get fired? We improved by, 15 games or whatever it ends up being. And we did a lot of good things. He can use the injury excuse, like he already has tried saying and all that. So I really think the only way out of this for Portland, outside of just picking up his option for next year, is the hope that another team is going to be interested in him, like a Phoenix if they move on from another coach after 1 year, if they allow them to speak with them. But if they don't even allow him to speak to another team, that's just weird to me. I don't understand that. So it'll be very fascinating to see what they do this summer.
Yeah, it's one of many storylines this offseason that are going to be very interesting to cover and follow with this team. They got a lot of questions surrounding themselves this offseason, maybe more than ever. In the past, it was kind of one big question: how are you going to build around Dame? And then it was, man, is Dame going to ask out, right? It was usually one specific question each offseason. And this past offseason, in a rebuild, you end up with more kind of smaller questions that you have to answer. And we knew Chauncey was going to come back last offseason, but that's a question this offseason now. And then with the draft pick, right, the Blazers are most likely not going to have a top 7 draft pick like they've had the past 3 years. So what do they do with that? How do they handle that? How does their winning this season affect some potential moves in the offseason, right? And you're starting to get closer to like a Shaedon Sharpe contract extension potentially. And these young guys are getting a little older, right? So you're going to have some contract stuff on the horizon as well. And I think, you have Jeremy Grant still on this roster. What do the Blazers do with him? Do they actually go into next season with him? Do they go into next season not starting Scoot and or Shaedon Sharpe because you still have Anthony Simons on the roster? So many questions around this team that's going to be fun to cover all offseason. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that this offseason. Of course, we'll have you covered right here at Blazers Uprise.
The Blazers Uprising.
Yeah, the good old uprising. Anyway, anything else you want to get into on this quick little stream? We're going to be live tomorrow after the postgame show. Or after the game, of course, with the postgame show.
So Isaiah W says, sure, I'd like to see the young guys play more, but just letting the young guys play with no structure or support from the vets, it ends up being messy. I would say that it hasn't been messy when the vets haven't played this year. I think it's been fairly encouraging, the games that the vets haven't been there. And also, you don't have to have vets that play, right? Like we got Brogdon last year and he didn't play most of the season. Yeah. Robert Williams hasn't played in 2 years. More than he played 26 games as a Blazer or something like that. Like you have those guys on your bench. You can sign minimum contract vets and things to help out in the locker room or with that structure or whatever. But also the structure comes from the coach. So like if Chauncey isn't making them play with structure or within a system or trying to bring an identity out of that core of young players, then he's definitely the wrong coach for the team. And so that goes back to our original point, is that is he really improving due to improving scheme wise and X and O's wise, or is it just he has slightly better defensive players this year and that's just makes his team better? It's nothing necessarily that he's doing different.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, looking forward to tomorrow's post-game show. The Blazers are playing the... why am I blanking on this? They're playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, yeah. I'm going to that game, so that stream's going to go live a little bit later than normal. So just hang around, and then we'll cover that game. We'll see how the Blazers look against a healthy Cavs team tomorrow night. We'll see who plays. And, yeah. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us on the second channel. Glad we could be a good start to your week. And we got some Blazer action this week. We got Tuesday, Thursday, and then another freaking Sunday game. Another 3 p.m. Sunday game. So we'll have you covered with all that. Anything else, sir?
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Have a good rest of your night. Hope to see you tomorrow night.
Yep, good luck in picks against the spread. I haven't checked scores. I'll do that after. Hopefully I can make up some ground because I've been struggling, but we'll see if chat can maintain their lead. They gave it up for one day, and then they got it back, so hopefully chat can fall off a little bit here. Rooting against you, chat. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're out of here until next time. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.